Okay, Akhil, I want to start our conversation with a discussion on Salesforce. It is almost like Salesforce has become the company when we want to talk about some company in SaaS, right? So
Yeah,
unfortunately, they get all of our criticisms and complaints about SaaS in general. But regardless, with that, I want to discuss Salesforce's reducing revenue, right? So this is the reduction in growth of Salesforce revenue. And it's interesting that revenue is slowing down even after I believe they've only recently increased their price points. I think they raised their
yes.
pricing for all of their plans. And there is a lot of talk of agent force. There is an agent AI agent builder platform, but it doesn't feel like it's going anywhere right now. I think you did some research on this. What have you been seeing?
Sure. So again, Jay, you and I both know our love for Salesforce. So Agent Force, that's interesting there. Why is it interesting is in the last podcast, we both of us we had discussed that the incumbents have a lot of leverage, even though AI is letting younger startups catch up very fast. Right? We
Hmm.
were discussing that AI is leveling the playing field and people can catch up very fast. We also made a point that the same leverage, the same options are available to Salesforce and Mondays and the larger behemoths of the industry also. So Agent Force is the example. They have spent a shit ton of money trying to build that. They have promoted it. There are people out there who call themselves Agent Force developers, so on and so forth. Having said that, last month when they released their projections for 2026, they reduced their projections by 6 to 7%. The moment they did that, their stock tanked by 10%. Why was that? Because while they are able to do it, they're not able to do it well. What's not really working for them is the amount of unpredictability around agent force. And this is
Hmm.
something that you and I talk about a lot,
Hmm.
primarily because, see, Salesforce has historically been a per seat kind of an offering. So whenever you or any organization, irrespective of the size, purchase a Salesforce license, you know what you are getting into, how many seats you're getting. Now, Agent Force comes with a usage-based pricing. It is a very major shift for someone as Salesforce. Now, usage-based pricing, while it is the buzzword or the favorite child of all pricing experts out there, what we have noticed, what you and I have discussed many times also, is it needs to be done with nuance
I
and very
Yeah.
carefully.
So Salesforce agent force pricing, right? So I think what I was trying to say is that Salesforce has a history of bad execution, bad product launches. They launch products before anything is built. This is Mark Benioff's history. He did it with Salesforce Einstein. He never has a product and he releases it. He's been doing ever since.
History is repeating itself, my
No,
friend.
he
Yeah.
always does it. This is all okay. And I'm saying some very critical things, but that's always what I've seen. I've been in the
Yeah,
industry for
yeah,
more
yeah,
than like
yeah,
15
yeah,
years.
yeah.
And so now let me show their pricing page. Salesforce Foundation. Okay, add key features to your CRM. What does key feature mean? I'm not sure. 1k
God knows,
agent
maybe
for,
Mark knows.
yeah, I am literally reading this as a Salesforce customer. Add key features. 1000 agent force conversations and leads are free. Okay, 250k data cloud credits. Now agent force drive efficiency $2 per conversation. Pardon my French, but what the fuck? Okay, like what is an agent force
Yes, yes.
conversation? How do you define an agent for conversation, and why should I give you $2 per agent for conversation? I have a
I want
problem.
you to
Wait,
get
wait,
to
wait,
the best part.
wait. My salespeople don't put any data in Salesforce, right?
Yeah,
Everyone in my organization hates using Salesforce. Why will I have a conversation with Salesforce? It's like, what conversation? What is it going to do?
what
I
is
mean,
a
this is
conversation
see,
needed to be the first
problem.
question.
What am I trying to highlight? I keep saying that pricing is positioning,
Yeah,
and this is completely botched positioning. Like you don't have to forcibly add a word force next to everything. You don't
yeah,
have to
yeah,
make
yeah.
everything agent. first you say what tool you're going to solve. Na? So when we
Yeah.
were building our first iteration of our product and we later on moved to consulting, one of the main things I kept encountering when I would talk to VCs want to see the whole platform, right?
Yeah.
But when I go to a customer, do you have aspirin because I am having a headache? Or do you
Yes.
have that cold packs because I have a shoulder issue? This is what Salesforce does. Instead of showing like these are the use cases and here is what I'm going to offer, here is how it will solve, they first create platform positioning. And as a user, I am like, what does this mean? So platform positioning can
Absolutely.
only help analysts. Analysts can be great, but sooner or later you have to pay the piper. Somebody will buy your stuff or not. The second of all, both Salesforce and Intercom's Fin had like these high per conversation rate pricing. How do you explain that at a point where DeepSeek has tanked the American market by 10%
Yes.
and more innovation
Yes.
is happening? How
Yeah.
can you keep a straight face and say, I will charge you $2 per conversation? You
Yeah.
cannot.
And add to that, the people who truly have the power to pay, like the whales. Why, if I am a whale, I'm someone who's typically paying hundreds of thousands to Salesforce per year. Why would I default to Agent Force when I have the option of building a better, more specific or more catered to my needs somewhere on AWS, OpenAI, anywhere? This whole approach, as you very rightfully said, what is even a conversation is the crux of the problem. $2 per conversation, and then there comes the overage fee, $2.50 for overage. So this creates a lot of confusion, right? I don't know how many conversations, even if I have a sense of what a conversation is, I don't know how many conversations I'm going to use. And if I exceed them, you're charging me extra. You mentioned something about data cloud. There is still no clarity about how much or if data cloud is a part of my platform. So while they have tried to make everything force, agent force, this force and that force, the execution is not there
A
to the
very simple
customers.
question, like how many product marketers does Salesforce hire? Because this stupid packaging, ChatGPT can create in 5 minutes. Okay. Maybe ChatGPT has created this packaging, in which case there are thousands of people who are going to lose their jobs. Okay. Maybe what is actually happening is bureaucracy. These people would have done a better job,
Yeah.
but somebody said we need to get this out the door. And
Clearly designed by committees happening here. Okay.
what
Everyone
does this
wanted to
say?
get their
This
say
just
in. Yeah.
this just means that there is a lot of fear. I was talking with a colleague and I'm like, so I moved to Las Vegas and I'm talking about Silicon Valley and I'm saying, listen, I do not see why you need 4 or 5 product marketers in a company. In an earlier company, I used to write copy, I used to figure out pricing. There used to be other people, and we used to do certain research. Now, research is done in a single day. You can
Mhm.
feed OpenAI and say, listen, I want Andy Raskin's way of making a deck. You give
Yeah.
me the content, deep research will do the work. Okay. Copy,
I do that.
you don't even need the oven model to write copy. Any model
Yeah.
will write good copy for you. Website updates, you can directly hook them up to Webflow now, and you can
Yeah.
just keep tweaking, keep giving it commands until you have the right copy. Theoretically,
Yeah.
everything is automable, and you just need a person who can work with these tools and update if that is all what you want your product marketers to do. And I
Sure.
have been in big companies, they don't do a lot every week, and there are few people who anyway do much. So that is just the situation of product marketing.
Yeah.
I can only feel like a company like Salesforce is, whatever they may be saying, they are very scared, right?
Yeah.
There is, we have been discussing that there is a software we wanted to use for conjoint analysis. Now it is feasible for us to spend a weekend and build it ourselves and have a
Yeah.
working product. So that is $7,000 per year license for one person that we save right out the gate. There are so
Absolutely.
many. AI has changed everything. AI has also changed any way that anybody is going to give money to Agent Force. Unfortunately, software
Yeah.
is immediately getting commoditized, and what we are seeing is they made a decision, and the world immediately flipped on its head in 3 months, right?
Yes.
And the world will flip on its head again in 3 months, and we will be talking about yet another thing in 3 months.
Yeah. Having said that, see, and this is maybe it's my burnt heart saying this, that ever since when we started, we were at one point rightly competing with Salesforce with our CPU software. So Salesforce has had a very precarious position in my heart. Having said
Hmm.
that, just by the size, just by the size of it, I think they will survive this. Just yesterday, I was watching a podcast by Yamini, the CEO of HubSpot. A very
Hmm.
pointed question was asked: what is it that Salesforce does better? What is it that you do better? She was very
Hmm.
honest, very upfront. She said, we do product better, but
Hmm.
Salesforce does marketing better.
Hmm.
And both of us know, right, as disastrous, for the lack of a better word, this agent force thing is, they will outmarket it. They will eventually come to a point where obviously this will get better. They will figure out
I don't agree.
they need to.
I don't agree on that. They
I
have.
I I I think, see, incumbents are incumbents because of this. This is not the first setback. This is not the first time. You yourself said
It's
Mark
not.
has had a history of botched
I
executions.
don't. It's not that I don't agree that they will survive. I don't agree that it is marketing that they are good at. Clearly, they suck at marketing. What they are good at is that they have a lot of customers and they
Yeah,
have some runway to change things, because humans, even for
some runway.
humans to change their bill and say we will go with someone else, and alternative needs to exist. This is why incumbents
Yes.
exist. But as
Yeah.
a marketer, I let me say that Salesforce marketing at one point was really good, right? Mark Benioff's marketing. Since then, if your execution is always going to trail years behind, your marketing starts to look shitty, and that is what is happening. And not even, doesn't even matter. Like their current page, you don't know what they're saying. It's
But
just
does that
unclear.
truly matter for the enterprise customer?
It
Does
does.
that
Like
truly
enterprise
matter?
customer will
Because
say,
the customer also
enterprise
moves at the same
customer
snail
says the
pace.
same thing. Enterprise customer says, what is conversation? I don't want to have any conversation. You, this thing needs to have a predictable cost for me. Every time we talk about usage based pricing, we say enterprise customer cares about predictability. Now in this case,
Sure.
Salesforce is saying, I don't want to lose revenue, I will give conversation. But the whole part is, it is neither here or there. The metric chosen, conversation or credit, is neither my input. See, I can put, like, conversation has unrelated to the number of like compute I'm using, right? So it's
Sure.
unrelated to my input, and it is unrelated to my output, which would be some sort of outcome, right? People keep
Yeah.
saying outcome
Yeah.
based pricing. This is why my frustration is neither here nor there. I do not know whether I can control my cost, and customer doesn't know what am I going to get from a conversation. Are you going to help me analyze my data set? How many conversations is that? Are you going to help me coach my sellers? This is generalizing. When you had the opportunity of packaging up many use cases and saying these are the new things now you will be able to do, you could have even charged fixed rate to enterprise companies and say, therefore now I will give you these new products and you can buy these. That have could have made them more money.
Yeah. So this is again, Ajit, the reason why the whole stock debacle happened, and
Yeah.
there is a very not so happy vibe about agent forces. Exactly this. It is the very nature of an enterprise buy. While the enterprise, and it's not just about agent force, enterprise is very careful about AI adoption in general,
Hmm.
because and this has been there throughout. Whenever there's a new cutting edge technology, there are early adopters which are usually smaller, but enterprises take time. This has
Yeah.
been there, and the AI landscape is changing so fast that it actually makes sense for them to move slowly. On
Hmm.
top of that, when someone who they are already aligned with, working with, and spending a significant money comes up with a not so good offering, when you
Hmm.
compare it with compared to Salesforce, right? OpenAI is a new child on the block, right? But if you compare it with Microsoft, Google Cloud, Azure, AWS, it is significantly behind. And
Hmm.
your bafflement is equaled by my bafflement is, and then why even launch it? Maybe there were targets, the
FOMO.
board meeting needed to happen. Yeah,
FOMO.
FOMO. Yeah, FOMO. FOMO. But yeah, see, while objectively what you said, what I feel makes 100% sense. Maybe they're banking on the slow moving nature of enterprises, that by the time enterprises actually decide and catch up, we would have figured out our shit and we would
Yeah.
have figured this
Yeah.
out. Yeah. But yeah, this is
Okay.
what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Coming to the next thing. Okay. So I'm going to show you something really cool. All right.
I like cool things.
All right. So John Rush is this guy I've been following, and he is shown a couple of examples of household robots, which are really coming into their prime. And few of these examples are almost like they're from a Black Mirror episode. One of them is this guy Neo Gamma, right? Looks pretty homely, like pretty homely robot. Then
Yes.
Nvidia has an Nvidia Blue, which is little bit feels like R2D2. There are two robots that are cutting apples. They are like not cutting apples. They are like stocking a fridge and
Passing on
collaborate.
to Apple.
There are a couple more example of like homely robots that are cleaning, serving meals, and things like that. So with all of this being said, this it feels like this has happened immediately. It feels I've been watching the chat GPT thing for 2 years, and it's not even been 2 years. It's not like this
Yes.
whole LLM thing has been very recent. And just recently, even the talk of robots was like everything in the news was like robot can't do even do this, can't even do that, it can't do anything. All we were told is it will be in manufacturing first more than anything else.
Yeah, the best you
But
could.
how is it changed so fast? What have
So,
I missed? Why
Ajit,
have I missed this completely?
no, so you have not really missed anything. Like, Ajit, the answer to what I realized is the answer to this question is also the answer to most of the questions
42.
in our life. Like, not, no, better than 42
Elon
and
Musk.
and ChatGPT and LLMs. So I'll start with Elon Musk.
Sounds like an
Why Elon?
Avengers movie. One side is Elon Musk, one
Yes.
side is Chat GPT and
So
LLMs. Marvel movie.
absolutely, it is exactly the same. Where Elon Musk is not only Fury, but also all the individual Avengers in some form or the another. So I'll start with Elon Musk. The interesting thing is, see, 2 years back, Elon Musk launched their Optimus line of robots, which were the first mainstream humanoid robots. Humanoid robots are not new, but they have historically always been gimmicky, right? Something that you still stays in a very proof of concept or an early adopter thing. But when
Hmm.
Elon Musk does things, people and the industry both have a lot of trust and faith in him. He does things which are, while being cutting edge, directly usable for the end customer. So first is public acceptance. Like, people saw the Optimus robot while there was a lot of speculation about the robots not truly being autonomous and being controlled, but it brings in a lot of support. This support results in a lot of funding. So if you are an up and coming robotics startup who
Hmm.
wants to build a humanoid robot, VC money becomes easier because VCs are like, if Elon is investing in this, then this is something worth
But
looking at. This is
wait,
not
hold
a
on.
let's get in on
You're
the ground
saying
floor.
he is an industry maker, not an individual person. But according to you, someone like him is getting more resources invested in the industry.
Absolutely,
Okay,
absolutely,
I am. So my
absolutely.
question, I understand that, but I am to understand what has changed technology wise to make these new robots function as well. I am more interested in what are the technology changes that have happened.
Absolutely, absolutely. So first thing, let's get out of the way is, obviously the hardware technology has significantly improved over the years. The actuators that you use, the motors that you use, the battery efficiency, the lightness of the components, it has obviously improved. That's not sexy, that's not boring, no one talks about it, but it is there. And also because of all the work that Elon has put in Tesla and for Optimus, this contributes here also. Now coming back to the core of it. See, robotics is not a new thing. We have had robots for the sense of the word forever. Assembly lines at all, more or less any industry is manned by robots. Cars are have been built by robots, but they have always been specific purpose robots which do only a few things which they do well. Now, that why was that? Because they had to be programmed. They had to be programmed to do something specific and handle a very few edge cases. The reason this was not coming to mainstream is, I cannot have a robot, an expensive robot, which only does one thing, right? I already have that. It's called a mixer, it's called a washing machine, it's called a TV. Now, what I want is something like Jarvis or something that comes out of a TV wherein there's a robot. I ask it to do anything and it does that. The rise and the significant improvement in the LLMs is what is driving this. Now, once you have figured out, just imagine the AI agentic conversation that is happening across the world, where we are saying that AI agents will replace software.
Hmm.
It is exactly the same analogy, right? You earlier had custom specific software which did specific things, handled specific cases, now are being replaced by AI agents, which are much more smarter. They understand the intent, they know the components that they need to use, and they execute it. The same thing is happening in the robotics world. You talk to a robot, you see, of all the examples that you just gave, right? It might not seem, but the Apple's example is the most important and more critical example. The fact that the robot is now has the capability to understand that this is an apple. He understands that he needs to give it to the other robot, and that robot knows if it's a rotten apple, it needs to be thrown, and if it's a good apple, it needs to be
Hmm.
put in the refrigerator. Historically,
Hmm.
you could have built an apple picking robot, but it would only work on robots. These
Hmm.
robots will work on bananas, they will work on juice, they will work on meat, whatever. So this rise in your LLMs, and because of LLMs, your silicon, the rise of LLMs has made sure that NVIDIA's and other chip makers of the world are making faster
So is
chips.
it
That
an LLM
includes,
that is helping to is the interaction of two essentially LLMs the same whether it is being in hardware format or whether it is in software format?
this would be
This
a
is the same
little
concept.
simplification, but it is more or less that only, right?
Okay.
A robot now has a bigger brain, for the lack of a better
Hmm.
word, right?
Hmm.
They earlier they had a brain, they a simple programmed if this do that, if not do that, otherwise give an error. Now they have the ability to perceive things, to see things. Earlier they were limited with this is a thing. Now
Hmm.
they look at a thing, they see this is an apple, they look at the context. Now an apple in the kitchen and an apple in on a breakfast table are two entirely different contexts. You no longer need to program that. Looking at the
Okay.
context, the
Okay.
robot can now make a judgment, which is making them more usable.
So my question is, see, I have lived in the Bay Area for a long time. I used to
Mhm.
see these self-driving cars, and for 10 years I've seen them train these self-driving cars, all right?
Yes.
In the household example, are you saying, let's say I have a couple of use cases, like I have to manage the kitchen, clean the kitchen, cook a few dishes, all of these things. You are saying this is more trainable, faster trainable now?
Yes. This is
Okay.
exactly. So again, there are many reasons why this has significantly improved. This
Hmm.
one, the robot that you let's say you get a robot today. Now the
Hmm.
robot is immediately able to, and let's compare this with a Roomba, because a
Hmm.
Roomba is the best example compared, very similar to a self-driving car. Now
Hmm.
Roomba will map your house and do a lot of things on its own, but that is where it is limited. But your robot can look at the house, look at what kind of appliances you have, what how high or how low your things are, and then adjust itself. Now it will not only train on the real time, but the original training is also helped by the increase in the capacity of LLMs. How would you, if you were to build this robot, how would you train it? You would simulate a lot of different environments, right? Different homes, different layouts. Using AI, now you can generate these simulations at a much faster rate and at a much higher resolution. If you take Sora or any video generation, you can generate videos. Earlier, you would have
But
had
there is
to
a problem with
make.
something like Sora, right? If Sora is only 95% accurate, you
Mhm.
multiply that level of accuracy 95 into 95 into 95.95.95, you get low accuracy. So how feasible is it to train using AI generated output if it's that output itself cannot be good?
That is a very good point. That is valid. But my thing is, you can always compensate for it in your how you split your testing data. Now,
Hmm.
I'm not saying you replace all of your real world data with synthetic data, but
Hmm.
what you can do is you can have a, first of all, 95% is a very good number, to be very
Hmm.
honest.
Hmm.
95% is as good as it gets.
Hmm.
You have more data now. So the just by the virtue of having more data, your robot has better understanding of what could go wrong. You are no
Hmm.
longer limited by, see, when you are training something, you don't just train it for the positive scenario. You also train
Hmm.
it for the negative scenarios, which is
Hmm.
where all of this comes into picture. You have to train it. Plus, again, the hardware and all, everything has significantly
So,
improved.
okay, got it. So once it comes into somebody's home, is it still training? So there are two trainings that need to happen, right? One is train to the context of my house, and second is keep getting updated. So we have discussed
Yes.
that the root updates you have talked about. This
Yes.
same allows it to train inside my house also.
Absolutely. So it will constantly, and that is true again for your LLMs. As they acquire more data, they
Hmm.
keep refining, they have their checks and balances, they keep refining that. Every time a robot fails a task and gets a feedback from their user that you have dropped the apple, the
Hmm.
robot will either send the data back to the servers where it will be analyzed, new learnings will be extracted, and over
Hmm.
the air updates will happen. Teslas have been updating them for years now,
Yeah.
parked in
Yeah.
the garage. The robot will also do that. Now, because of the involvement in chips, the robots are able to run complex, not as big, but decent size AI models on them, on their device, on the edge
Hmm.
only. So
Hmm.
this kind of training can be done real time also. This is a
Makes sense.
very straightforward,
Makes sense.
very common ML thing that has been
Makes
happening for
sense.
years.
So I've been thinking about the price for something like this, right? Now we're coming to monetization. I get my house cleaned once in 2 weeks,
Hmm,
and it's a small house, the one bedroom,
hmm,
and I pay $200 once in 2 weeks.
sure.
That is roughly $5,000 per year. That's how much
Yeah.
I'm paying today. But I would ideally want to do it every other day. I would ideally
Yes.
want to do it at least a week.
If you
So,
can, sure.
so how feasible is it that something like this gets priced in the, let's say, like a car, like it's like buying a car, $30,000, 20 to 40,000, that you can buy a new robot and it does all of this work, does cooking, it does chopping, cleaning, right? And let's say it does everything and it goes to charge itself in the garage after it does the stuff.
See,
How,
I honestly see
what is,
this happening in a couple of years.
okay.
And your numbers are still on the higher side. Now, if Figure and Optimus, they really want adoption, they
Hmm.
need to bring this number to somewhere between 20 to 40,000 range. That
Hmm.
is where it will become actually usable. Otherwise, it is still a very expensive,
Hmm.
only select few people can afford. It will be the
Hmm.
supercar of robots. So from what I've heard, from what I've seen, the sweet spot is 20 to 40,000. It is very feasible within the next 2 years. And again, my confidence comes from seeing how fast the technology is evolving, how fast the usability of these devices is changing. I just wanted to quickly repeat one thing. Hardware problem is more or less solved. Right? A robot, if you were to remote control a robot, can it do all of these things? Yes, that has been solved. What is going to change, what is going to really differentiate is how quickly it becomes usable across multiple things. If it is
Hmm.
doing 5 things only, it is not enough. It should be able to, out of the box, it should do 20 things. And
Hmm.
as it lives in the house, it should be able to start learning to do new things. That
Hmm.
is when you will only buy it then. Otherwise,
I
a
wonder
Roomba
that
serves your purpose.
I wonder if it is at some point easier to ask the robot to learn how to drive a car than to have a self-driving car. To convert a regular car into, hey, this is John, my robot. He's driving me to LA this weekend.
See, Ajit, I have a fascination for self-driving cars. Ever
Hmm.
since I saw the Waymo cars for the first time, every time I see a Waymo car, I just turn my head and just to make sure that yes, there is no one there. So this is a very interesting thought process, right? Because while it is objectively clear that self-driving cars are going to be a benefit to the society, the legalities and the moralities around that are have been questionable. Who is to answer if a self-driving car bumps into someone and hurts someone? Right now, you are adding to it. There is a machine which is the car, and there is another machine which is John, right? And then there is Ajit. You have separated yourself by 2 degrees. So yeah, indemnity wise, it sounds good, but
Hmm.
it is interesting. It would actually, this will make sense. This actually makes sense because the technology for self-driving has already evolved a lot, right?
So
So
John, I
you,
just need to install John with the self-driving module and convert any
yes,
regular car
yes,
into a self-driving car. But the
some
only
sensors
thing
on the
is,
car, but
uh,
yes, why
yeah,
not?
yeah, yeah.
Some
But
sensors on the
because
car,
I
yes.
John has my field of vision, John has my dexterity, my all of the same things hypothetically, then it doesn't need more sensors. Then it can at least drive like me.
No, see, here's the thing. You are dependent on things like vision and audio because we are
Hmm.
humans. That those are the senses that we have. The robots, the self-driving cars, they are very less reliant on vision because
Hmm.
vision is
Hmm.
very, it does not perform well when it's
Hmm.
dark, raining, whatever. So they have other sensors, things like lidar, other radar sensing technologies. And your robot is not going to drive like this. Let me be
Right.
very honest. Your robot is going to jack into the system, right? It will plug into the system. It will talk directly to the computer so
Hmm.
that the response time is
So you are saying the one
instantaneous.
that I am saying is more like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Terminator, and
Yes,
you have the more
yes,
advanced one. So at some point,
yes.
when I have my tribal blue culture, hippie culture somewhere, we will bring the John and we will like, dekho, John has come to we will stay 10 generations behind, but John, we will make sure John will drive the car. So the next
Yeah, yeah,
level of
yeah, yeah.
terrorists in Pakistan will have a Toyota with John driving it.
John
And
driving it.
they're like, we could not get the latest update because of embargo to Pakistan, but at least we
Yes,
have a
and who
John. We
entered
made
it?
a no, sorry, it won't be a John. It will be, don't be racist. It will be a Indian. It will be a
It
local
will
name.
be insert local name.
Insert local
It
name.
will be insert
And
local
and
name. Yeah,
they that John will drive Toyota because see, all the robotics in the world, Toyota will still make the best cars in the world,
the best
right?
cars in the world. Right, right, right. There is a
So
reason. The choice car for all extremists in the world is Toyota.
Toyota,
Right.
but
So yeah,
also all conservatives, everybody.
uh, see, yeah, I cannot comment about why conservatives drive a Toyota, but for what I know for a fact is
Doesn't
Toyota
break
is,
down.
yeah, so that is good for everyone, no? Why will
Hmm.
I, even if I am not a conservative? Yeah,
So
okay,
the
makes
question
sense.
is, it brings to mind the question that now why will any army hire soldiers? You first came with
That
drones. Now
you
you
are
have
already seeing this happening in the Russia-Ukraine thing.
okay.
They are
So
using,
whoever makes the robot faster can capture all of the peaks of Kargil or all of the mountain tops, and then we will send our robots in Kargil too
yeah,
to
yeah,
dethrone them. So there is no
yes,
humans needed in the army anymore.
very. So this, see, this is not going to happen as fast as it is happening in the consumer space. Will be there because all said and done, these are hackable devices. Anything that is connected to the network, the fast,
Hmm.
see, the security, as fast as it may move, the cracks always catch up to them. So you cannot be
Hmm.
100% reliant on them. You will still need people to man these things. Right.
Hmm.
Right now, if you just take the example of Russia and Ukraine, a lot of aerial warfare is unmanned, but not fully unmanned. There is someone who's steering the drones
Hmm.
from the ground,
So
and they
let me
need.
ask you a very
There is
basic
a.
question. Very basic question. I'm sorry, I'm changing topic again, but
It's okay.
very basic question is: will you let a robot give you morning tea? Right? You wake up, it wakes up your family and says, "Sir, here is tea. I am now going to prepare breakfast." Are you
I
going
am
to
not
allow
able
it
to.
to?
I don't understand your concern here because this seems like a very good proposition. The
Okay.
predictability of the quality of my tea
Huh.
goes away. I
Okay.
am
So
a
you are not worried
avid tea person.
about
Yes.
the robot lying to you. You are
Hmm.
not worried about the robot taking adverse action against you.
See, these are. This is very similar to a conversation that I was having with my 6-year-old yesterday. The concept of lying, thieving, and robbering. I'll
Hmm.
use the same phrasing. So and in the context of the animal world, we were discussing why we and some animals had to eat other animals, the concept of carnivorous animals and everything. So while I told her the whole food chain and everything. When it came to the topic of lying, robbing, and thievery, I told her that it is a very uniquely human concept. Animals very rarely need to do all of this. So unless you have a robot which has been programmed to do this, right, this kind of malice, or has been hacked, the chances of this happening is quite minimal.
If it is
So
learning
quite
from
minimal.
our behavior every day, may
Hmm.
learn that I will hide some pocket money and put it in that upper drawer. Okay? It
Sure,
will learn certain things from observation that
sure,
it will not call out.
sure.
It How hard is it to believe that a robot that is close to some sort of AGI will
Hmm.
have a survival instinct? All animals have a survival instinct.
Sure. So again,
So if
it
it
will only kick
ever,
in when it's
if
a survival is at risk, no?
huh, so if you
It
say
will
कि,
not do it for
we
no
are
reason.
going to bring the next version, Jane, right?
Hmm.
Now
Hmm.
John is going to be replaced by Jane.
Hmm.
What what is the, you have no quantification of this probability
Hmm.
that John is not going to take any adverse action.
So again, at this point, since we are delving in the hypotheticals, I will happily invoke the three laws of robotics by the great Isaac Asimov. The See, here's the thing. Your underlying assumption is that these robots are fully autonomous to the extent that there are no checks and balances and controls. Just
Hmm.
like for us, you're saying that they have the same level of free will and the
Yeah.
ability that we have. But fundamentally, even we are constricted by the societal laws and the true legal laws. While they might not be kind of as restrictive as they could be for robots, but it is
Hmm.
still a thing. A lot of people do not do bad things because they will get into trouble. The
Hmm.
same goes for robots. The robots will always have prime directives, which will, I am sure, once we reach this level of advancements, more or less they will drill down to the same laws that were defined by Asimov. A robot will not injure a human being. A robot will have to obey a human being. So if a direct order is given, it cannot be kind of overridden by the robot. And assuming that the first two laws are not being breached, the robot will make sure that it does not get harmed. So these checks and balances, and this is again going back to the whole AI because that is more recent. The ethical AI is a phrase that has been going on ever since AI started becoming a thing. Even before the word AI became
I
popular,
understand that it is a phrase, but I don't think that it means much.
see, now that is the skeptic in you, but there are people who are actually fighting for it, and that is something that we should all strive for, because if we do not do that, the scenario that you just mentioned, that's not very far, right?
The company that is the number one in AI right now is also the company. Sorry, there is also the company that has questions have been put against it about where it is copying the data, right? Will not say whether it is true or false. I am just saying that the creation follows the pattern of the creator, and if the creator is not above board, then what ethical AI?
That is, see, here's the thing, right? Then the only solution that I see for this is not to have humans making these decisions, right?
Hmm.
Because the a human will always suffer, even if it is a committee, even if it's a democracy,
Hmm.
right? Big committee, huge committee,
Hmm.
and requiring stricter laws.
Hmm.
But a human body will always contain the flaws of the human body.
Hmm.
And benevolent super AI and
Benevolent
benevolent
AI.
super AGI, benevolent
Hmm.
AI, who make sure that there is true impartiality and
Hmm.
true ethics are always used.
Got it.
It
So
it
whether it be us praying to Ganesh ji, Hanuman ji, or AIG,
or super AIG.
we are always admitting that we are weak creatures and we
Yes,
need
yes,
supervision.
yes. We
Right?
see if history has taught us something, see all of these wars and man-made calamities, they have existed because again man was at the top. I'm not
Hmm.
blaming specific people, but the common thing here is that
Hmm.
it has
Hmm.
always been a human at the top.
Hmm.
These
So,
things do
so,
not happen anywhere
so
else.
Ram Rajya will come into India when we train a robot AI with
It will be
all of
Ram Rajya.
all of Ramayana and all of the adjoining epics, and we like now we have the super OS to run this
Yes,
country, and
yes,
truly you have come into yes.
yes. Ram Rajya. Ram 2.2 is what will work. But yeah, again, we just. But last night only we were discussing that how. So the one question that is asked by everyone to anyone who is closely working with the AI world is how close are we to AGI?
Hmm.
I was listening to this podcast by I don't remember his name, by a senior VP at Beta, where
Hmm.
he was saying that right now, if we only concentrate on making LLMs better, AGI is not happening in 2 years. But
Hmm.
what my takeaway is that if we concentrate on other architectures, other infrastructure, AGI is a possibility within 2 to 4 years.
But
So yeah,
why will
this
LLM not lead to AGI?
see this think of it like this that you have a machine, you have a brain which
Hmm.
is wired in a certain way. Now, by constantly only without changing the circuitry or changing the main components,
Hmm.
what all you are doing is
Hmm.
making it bigger,
Hmm.
giving it more data
Hmm.
and giving it more memory. So
Hmm.
in the end, it is possible that you have maybe 6 months down the line or 1 year down the line a mega brain
Hmm.
which will have decent answers to any and every question that you might ask.
Hmm.
But it will still be reliant on the data it has ingested. There is not going to be a new thought because if new thought is not possible today, that is not going to magically happen tomorrow. It will still be like sitting next to a PhD who is a PhD in every conceivable topic, but
Okay.
they can still only talk about
We
their
feel
thesis.
like we may get surprised, and on this point, I think we will probably
Yeah, Ajit,
stand to be
I looking
surprised.
at how fast m- my job as a coder is being replaced, I
Hmm.
am no longer surprised. I
Hmm.
am already flabbergasted.
Right.
Every day, uh, as I interact with these AI tools, and we have paid subscriptions to all the AI tools
Hmm.
from OpenAI to your Perplexity. We evaluate everything within monetizely, and the pace, nothing surprises me anymore, to be honest.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. With that, let's end this episode. It was fun chatting. Thank you.
Yes, happy to be here. Likewise, see you next week.